in order to meet the demand requirement. We require about $700 million worth of liquid fuel in order to fill the fuel deficit, because our gas today is inadequate to meet our fuel requirements. Consequently, Cabinet has approved a raft of measures aimed at tackling the situation in the medium, long, and even in the short term. Cabinet has approved that in partnership and in conjunction with the Finance Ministry, we take immediate steps to construct a second gas processing plant. This gas processing plant would augment the shortfall and increase supply security. Today, let me put on record that we are not shedding load. And so the demand by the minority and some people that we publish a load shedding timetable is mute. When you are not shedding load, there will be no need to publish a load shedding timetable. In fact, as we speak, we are exporting about 300 megawatts of power outside Ghana to Burkina Faso, to Benin, and to other neighboring countries. And so when you have enough and you are exporting power, obviously there will be no need to publish load shedding timetable. Admittedly, the system is very fragile and very weak, but we've been working around the clock to procure enough fuel and to make some payments to power suppliers in order to hold the system. It's true that Bridge Power, one of the independent power producers, shut their operations because of mounting liabilities that have not been paid over the months. But we've been able to negotiate with them, and I'm happy to announce to you that they are back online. It's also true that NGAS threatened to shut down the pipeline from the 6th of March. We've also been able to work with them and to negotiate with them. And gas supply has resumed and increasing from NGAS. What we need to do is to mobilize additional resources in order to procure more fuels and to hold the power sector running. Cabinet has also agreed that we operationalize the Renewable Energy Investment Fund, which will seek to deploy a lot of renewable energy, solar rooftops, EV charging stations, chargeable outboard motors, and more importantly, the deployment of solar street lights, which would press or suppress the peak demand, thereby making huge savings so that we can continue to produce power. We are also to implement a raft of measures to contain expenditure within the energy sector, both petroleum and power. Consequently, we will be directing all the agencies to halt all kinds of expenditures that are not critical. And even those that are critical, they would need to seek permission before they proceed. The sector is bleeding, and something must be done in order to curtail the bleeding. This would demand some very, very tough but necessary decisions. And the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition is determined to implement these systems. At the downstream petroleum sector, Cabinet has agreed that we ought to construct a second mooring system in Tema, known as the CBM. We have only one CBM, which is used to discharge both petrol and diesel. Demand has increased by 186% since 2006, and yet we depend on only one mooring system, leading to huge demurrage costs, leading to huge challenges and unreliable supply security. And so immediately, Cabinet has decided that we would construct the CBM. Whatever challenges that arise, both legal and financial, would engage all parties and address that. We'll also be constructing additional tankage in the west, that is around Takrady, so that we can have supply flexibility to serve the people of Ghana. Cabinet is also committed to ensuring that we involve private sector participation at the downstream distribution sector. Let me reiterate without equivocation that we have not taken a decision to sell ECG or NEDCO. ECG is supposed to collect over 2 billion. They collect only 1.5 billion, leaving a deficit of 500 million cedis every month. That sums up to about 6 billion per annum. That cannot continue. Government must do something about it, and we are determined to do something about it in partnership with local content-led private sector participation. And we think that that is the right way to go about it. It will be done in a competitive, transparent process, giving priority to Ghanaian entrepreneurs and Ghanaian businesses. And we believe that that would help tame the situation. These are some of the measures that have been considered at Cabinet. Additional measures will be taken, and when those measures are taken, we'll be more than willing to brief you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. No questions. Please straightforward. Madam.
Will now need $700 million, to procure light crude fuel to power the thermal plant. Thank you.
Is that all the questions? So I just take them once.
Regarding the debt of ECG, what is government doing to address those debts, especially and the other SOEs?
Is that all? Then I want to take it once.
So mine has to do with the gas processing plant. Can you shed more light on the plants in terms of capacity, when it's expected to start the construction, and how much is involved in doing all this? Thank you.
Okay. So the Atobo gas processing plant can generate about 100 SCF. ENI can generate about 235 SCF. And then Nigerian gas can move up to about 100. But because of increased demand, you still have a shortfall of about 100 SCF. And so it's not as if all these plants are not producing. They are producing, but because demand is increasing, it means that consumption of supply is also increasing. And as you bring on more supply and thermal complementation, you will require some additional gas. And that is why there is that shortfall. So clearly, there is the need to immediately construct a second gas processing plant because we have stranded gas. Gas is much more cheaper than liquid fuel. If you use liquid fuel, it will cost you 3 times as compared to gas. And gas is more efficient. It generates better power. It promotes longevity of the plants, and is much more reliable. And so that is why we are doing everything we can to achieve a gas to power era. In September, the ENI plant was shut down, which means that we'll be losing about 240 SCF of gas. If nothing is done, it can lead to a potentially 1,300 megawatts of a deficit in power generation. And so we are working around the clock to mitigate that impact. September is a major challenge for this country. It's so short. Energy sector investment takes a long time to come to fruition or realization. But we are still working around the clock. Just like we're able to hold the system in March when the West African gas pipeline was shut, we are working around the clock, and we would brief everybody along the line. In terms of timelines, we are determined to work around 1 year, 6 or 8 months. Normally it takes more than 2 years, but we want to bridge the process and fast track it so that we can achieve full operation within the shortest possible time. Is there any other question? The what? The ECG debt. Yes, we've been discussing with Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance has made some provision in the budget to address some portion of the debt, but we'll continue to negotiate with all the agency and stakeholder players so that eventually we can deal with this debt. Thank you. God bless us.
All right. Thank you very much, Energy Minister, for that comprehensive presentation. Now, yes, hello, do I have your attention, please? All right. As I was indicating, some misleading claims have been made in the last few days about the staff of the Office of the President. I made it quite clear during the debate in Parliament what the exact position is. But just so that people are not swayed by the misinformation put out by the Honorable MP for the Damongo constituency, it is important for me to reiterate and clarify what the exact position is. To begin with, President Mahama made a firm commitment that he was going to cut down on the size of government. He put a specific number to the ministers that he will be appointing. Everybody heard him say he will appoint 60 ministers. That is including deputy ministers. He also made it clear that he was going to cut down on the number of political appointees at the Office of the President. Now, regarding ministers, he has done exactly as he promised. As I speak, he has made a total of 56 nominations for ministerial positions. All the ministers of state have been approved and passed by Parliament and have been sworn into office and are working, including my good self. There are deputy ministerial nominations currently before Parliament, and all of them have gone through vetting. We expect that they will be passed or approved by Parliament in the next few days, after which they will be sworn into office. There are 4 outstanding deputy ministerial nominations that His Excellency will be making, and as and when he makes them, we will make it and the president is making up for the shortfall in ministers with appointments at the presidency. And it is particularly disappointing because he once worked here as a deputy chief of staff. And so you would expect that he will be familiar with these matters and the positions thereof. Let me put it on record that everybody who has been appointed as a presidential staffer has been named in a statement put out by myself. So currently, there are 27 presidential staffers. All of them were publicly announced, unlike in the past, where we only learned of them when the president submits a list of the presidential staff to Parliament. This time, we went ahead to inform the people of Ghana about this list and left nobody in doubt about the numbers. In addition to these 27, 3 people have been appointed to assist with some specific interventions that the president wants to embark upon. And they are referred to as directors. They do not have the ranking of presidential staffers. At best, they can be described as presidential aides. There are just 3 of them. If you add it to the list of staffers, that is 30. Beyond that, no other staffers or presidential aides have been appointed. Now, if you go to 2017, when the MPP first came to office, they had a total of 27 staffers and 256 political appointees. That is people that they gave all manner of names to, 256 of them. They also had 9 ministers of state. 9 ministers of state who worked at the presidency, but you can count them amongst the 126 ministers or so that were appointed. This was 2017. In 2020, when they presented the presidential staff list, I beg your pardon, to Parliament, there were 36 presidential staffers and 270 political appointees at the office of the president. Mind you, I have not spoken about the civil servants. There were over 700 civil servants who worked under the office of the president, under the MPP. By and large, that number has remained same, barring some change. Now, these are civil servants who are seconded to the office of the president. They come from various government departments and agencies. So often in the analysis, they are not factored in terms of additions that have been made to the size of government. We often highlight the numbers of political appointees. So there were 306 political appointees under the MPP in 2020. In 2022, and I have all those reports, they presented those reports to Parliament, so they are matters of public record, and you can verify for yourself. When they presented the reports for 2022, it turned out that there were 44 presidential staffers and 292 political appointees. So in all, there were 336 political appointees who worked in the office of the president under the MPP in the year 2022. The numbers remain the same for 2023 and 2024. President Mahama will come nowhere close to this number. So currently there are 30 people you can call presidential staffers or presidential aides, some of whom are classified as directors who work under the office of the president. We are in the process of considering support staff for those who work at the office of the president. And we can state emphatically that it will be nowhere near half of what the MPP did when they were in power. So let the records be set straight that any claim that President Mahama has appointed 100 ministers and is hiding some in the presidency is blatantly false. The number of ministers who have been appointed is 56. The Honorable Jinapor is a member of Parliament. On a number of occasions, he has been at the appointments committee where he has joined the vetting of these ministerial nominees. And so he knows that there are no 100 ministers. And then when it comes to the staff at the office of the president, President Mahama has committed to reducing the numbers drastically. And therefore, by every account, this government will be the smallest in the history of Ghana. And the reason why that is important is that it enables the government to make significant savings. As I noted during my contribution to the debate on the message on the state of the nation, if in the past there were 126 ministers and you reduce the number to 60, that is 66 less Land Cruisers that you have to buy. We all know the price of a Land Cruiser today. It is anything between $100,000 and $120,000, which, if you convert to Ghana cedis, is almost 2 million Ghana cedis. So if you are not buying 66 Land Cruisers, you can do the math and see how much money you will be saving for the people of Ghana. We are talking in excess of 300 million Ghana cedis just on vehicles alone. Now, ministers are also often given saloon cars. And a saloon car given to a minister can range from anything between $40,000 to $50,000. So if you are not giving 66 ministers saloon cars in addition to their Land Cruisers worth $40,000 to $50,000, you can do the math and see how much money is saved. In addition to that, it means that you are not going to operate an office for 66 ministers. And if you know what goes into setting up an office for a minister and the support staff that comes with it, and in the past, ministers were given fuel coupons, they were given all manner of facilities. Some had their DSTV paid, their light bills paid, their houses or bungalows had maid servants and gardeners and watchmen and other support staff. All of these are not going to be the case for 66 people, unlike was the case under the MPP. So significant savings are going to be made in that regard. So there can be no argument whatsoever about which government has kept fidelity to the need for prudence and modesty in the way that government is composed, the size of government, and how public funds are utilized to cater for the needs of these appointees. So I wanted to set that record straight and debunk any notion that this government comes anywhere near what the MPP did when they were in power. Thank you very much. If you have any questions on the budget presentation made to Cabinet today and this subject relating to the number of ministers and the staff at the presidency, I'll be more than happy to take them. So there are opportunities for 3 questions, please. Yes, Kester.
I intended to ask the energy minister this, but I'm sure you could help us. What do I tell the public about the fears of an impending doomsday?
Well, the minister alleged that fear. There's no doomsday aspect. Doomsday means planned load shedding because generation capacity
Okay, the lights
has
off.
exercised. Yeah, there are sometimes the lights can go off and then they come on. Those are due to localized faults. Maybe a transformer has blown or so there's some problem with the distribution. But when you say doomsday, what we have come to know, it is just that, for instance, we need 4,000 megawatts of power to satisfy peak demand, but we are only able to produce, say, 2,800. So there's a shortfall of 1,200. And the way you make up for that is to switch off lights in certain parts of the country so that what you produce will suffice. The minister has made it clear that that is not happening at the moment.
Okay, and also with regards to September, I didn't get what we were going to do actually to for the shortfall that was going to come. He said
it was
if
the
nothing
subject.
is done,
It was the subject.
It
was the subject of the cabinet briefing, and adequate measures will be put in place to forestall that.
But for now, we don't know actually what we're going to do.
No, what will be done is exactly known.
Okay, so
what matters at the end of the day is that the lights do not go off. So government has to take some steps, just like we did when we came into power and the MPP government failed to make provision for alternative fuel sources, given the routine maintenance that the WAPCO pipeline was going to undergo. We spent $175 million in 1 month to buy fuel in order to forestall those cuts. So we have the capacity to do what it takes to avert any difficulty. He only highlighted that as a manifestation of the poor management of the energy sector by the previous government. The reason why that has happened is that they failed to carry out some maintenance that needed to be done. And to be able to do that, you need to procure alternative sources of fuel. Because they were unable to do that, they have had to shift these maintenances to later dates. And as and when the time is due, you have these threats. But those threats will be met because government has what it takes to resolve them.
Okay, this is on the budget. Because we have aid supporting our budget, the president assured that they were going to have other means of supporting that. Has there been any aid cuts? Is this budget
beyond
being affected by?
Yes, the USAID,
what is
the shortfall in the USAID financing because of the policy by the Trump administration to scrap that agency or to defund that agency. The president issued a directive several weeks ago to the finance minister to ensure that he makes adequate provision in the budget to cover the shortfall. And indeed, the finance minister has given indication in his presentation today that that will be done, especially so that critical investments to areas such as health and education do not suffer. Yes. Yes, Max, and then...
Yes.
Set.
Okay, so this budget actually sets the tone for the fulfillment of President Mohammed's 120-day social contract with Ghanaians. I want to find out, at this cabinet meeting, were there discussions on the promise to scrap what has been described as a draconian, obnoxious taxes like the e-levy, the betting tax, the COVID-19 levy? Were there discussions on scrapping them? Will they find space in this particular budget? And also, is there going to be any funds allocated to some promises like the Ijumera, the 1 million coders program, the seed money for the Women's Development Bank? Because we're told that all of these would happen within the 120 days of President Mohammed's government. Secondly, my second question, currency stability is crucial to the health of every economy. If mismanaged, things are likely to spiral out of control. You're likely to have increases in prices of fuel, petroleum products, and all of that. I want to find out what the John Mahama administration is going to do to keep a leash on the Ghanaian currency, the cedi, against major trading currencies. I'm saying this with the benefit of hindsight, with what we've seen, with what has happened, in the past. I don't know if I can ask a third one.
No, you can't. In terms of the 120-day social contract that President Mahama entered into with the people of Ghana, the finance minister has clearly indicated that we are on course to meeting those promises. So when on Tuesday he unveils the details of his budget, you will find that we have kept faith with the people of Ghana regarding the specific promises we made in the 120-day social contract. That is what I can say for now. In terms of managing the currency, yes, the finance minister will highlight measures, both within the medium and long term, aimed at addressing the fundamental weaknesses within our economy, one of which is rapid currency depreciation. And in concert with development partners and other stakeholders within the economy, appropriate responses will be prescribed for addressing this perennial challenge of currency depreciation. The final question. Okay, maybe let's make an exception for.
Okay.
Yes, last year.
Mine still has to do.
No, Seth, you still have not asked your question, so you can. I'll make an exception for you. Oh, okay, all right. Thanks for not replicating the question. Yes. Which answer were you looking for? On what? But I have told you that the 120-day social contract will be kept. And I suppose that you can make your own deductions from it.
It's okay. Bear with me to take you back a little steps back. The energy minister, unfortunately, he didn't stay to give us follow-up questions on the gas plant. It's a very, very critical sector. We know the Atuabo gas processing plant cost us $1 billion US dollars. Mm-hmm. How much will this cost? And then what will be the capacity of this one we are talking about?
Well, this question is a bit premature because discussions around it have not even been concluded. And therefore, it will be improper at this stage to be bandying about figures. But when government is ready to roll it out, all the details surrounding it will be made public, just like we did with the Atuabo gas processing plant. At the end of the day, it is the money belonging to the people of Ghana that will be used. So nothing will be hidden in terms of fine details of this project regarding costs, capacity, and benefits thereof. Yes,
the brouhaha between you and the opposition regarding the staffing of the presidency can only be settled if you give to Parliament the number of staffers or staffs who work at the presidency. When would the government of your your administration be given the list to Parliament?
Well, the law is very clear on the timelines. We are nowhere near that timeline. We are at least 11 months or so from that timeline. And when the time comes, that will be done. In any event, as I've indicated, everybody who has been appointed as a staffer has been named publicly. And you agree, you have been in the media. No such thing happened under the MPP. You only found out when the list was presented to Parliament. But we have been proactive and more transparent, and we have done so. Yeah. All right, so thank you very much. Yes. Okay, all right. Last question. Okay, all right. Oh, you can come if it's a burning question, if it's different from what has been asked. Yeah.
What is the theme for this year's budget? And has it got an acronym?
Well, we are not big on sloganeering and empty catchphrases. What matters is that a budget that will meet the hopes and aspirations of the people of Ghana will be presented. And more importantly, it will address the problems facing the Ghanaian people in terms of the harsh economic climate that was bequeathed to us by the MPP administration. Thank you very much.